that they were gonna be here, and we ended up with one parent. So that still is an ongoing issue. Any ideas that we have for increasing parent attendance in the future?
Can I suggest that maybe that some of our students from our schools do a little something? You know, when kids perform, parents come, right? Matt? If they,
Honestly, a lot of it has to do with work schedule, which is
Sure.
really the hardest one. Maybe a Friday, because Wednesdays, like during the week, Monday through Thursdays.
Church nights.
Really?
And it's church
Sure.
nights and Bible studies.
oh, you're right, ma'am.
You're right, and we had originally planned we had it on all Thursdays. The problem is at the end of the year, we have all these school functions and we had to move it. We were planning originally May 9th last Thursday.
Yes.
We had a function last Thursday, we had a function this Thursday. So maybe next year something needs to be done so that the last meeting is not in May. Maybe it needs to be in
Or
April.
even like the first week of the month. Booster Club has their meeting every first Wednesdays.
But it's long Wednesdays, right? I
It's
like
just
your
on
idea
Wednesdays.
about Friday.
So even like if it's the beginning of the month.
Not the middle or the end of the month.
Yeah.
Good
Okay.
idea.
And what's the reason for it being at the beginning? Are parents more able to make it?
I think so.
Okay.
Because I mean, during the week, we have doctor's appointments, we have, I don't have so much going on during the first week of the month, but coming towards the end, I'm on vacation, I have a lot of other stuff going on. Kids have appointments, I have appointments. So it's just harder.
Well, that's good feedback. Dr. Holt, I know last year you tried some things. Any ideas of what seemed to work and what didn't seem to work?
We also tried to do like video conferencing as
Oh.
well. And so we did hold one meeting. I thought we were going to do all of them like that. We had around 17 participants, but we still always had an issue with parents coming. And the time there just continued to be, we flushed it a little bit. Early on, it was like right at school dismissal, so we were running in traffic, so we pushed it later. So I think the time may be okay. I think the day might be something to do.
Why don't we put, I'm thinking of the back to school bash where we can.
I was
recruit
thinking that
parents
too, like, what if there's events for back to school bashes or
On
or
the
you
back to
have
school bash,
games out, fall festival, why don't we set up a table and let flyers or something?
that.
and-
do a survey on what times are best times and have parents register.
Yes.
So we
Like we
did that
did.
last year. We
Yeah.
set up and we asked them every time there was a member. And remember, we actually had them fill out a survey. And we actually went to that time, and that was Thursday. I don't know why we moved it longer, but that was Thursdays. This time came up as the best time, 5:30. So it wasn't involving traffic here. We talked about moving locations, but most people like it here because it makes it accessible.
Could we
I just
move
think
it?
it's hard, period. Maybe if we put it in line with something else where they're already attending, we might have.
And I would think though that it would have to be immediately following, just because there's different rules as far as like, let's say you had it at this festival and we just had a booth. That's not gonna count as an official meeting.
No,
So could we have
At
like
least
that
give
for PTO
people-
meeting?
Aware that, where they could register if they're interested in this, and you could be there giving them information, have a flyer of some of the things that might.
Just letting them know that this exists.
I guess I could do that, but my thought is it's still gonna have problems coming here because we posted it on our website. This time we didn't do a robocall to everybody, but we've done robocalls to every parent in the district. So like people know that it's happening, but it's just that like.
Why can't we
they
have
still
them
come.
at different locations, like, we've had family outreach meetings at LULAC, and some of the parents from LULAC did show up.
Yes.
Or also, I know the Goodwill has a community center where it's like a conference room. And we could
That's a good
have it
idea.
there, I mean, or at the Douglas Center.
What's convenient for parents, like, if it's in the housing division, we can get the parent from that housing division to go. If it's convenient to them, they don't have to travel, they don't get daycare there.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of Kingsville, most of the people here in Kingsville, they either don't have a job, they don't have a car, they don't work. So it's like, you know, they can't get somewhere. Like, I have a lot of patients that can't get to their appointments.
So maybe having it where they live, or sitting close to it. That's an idea.
We have the Douglas Center, we have the Goodwill, we have LULAC.
We have the corral, also they have a community room, and they've said we can have meetings there.
Okay, so change of location possibly where they don't have to travel as much. I think the day and time and maybe early in the month, all of those are good ideas as well too. If people have a job, a lot of times they get off at 5 o'clock and they would rather go right here instead of go home and then come like at 7:30 or whatever. I don't think at 7:30 we're gonna get a lot of participation.
You're right.
Not unless you have like student recognition or something like that.
I'm a little worried about Fridays even, although it's, you know, it's another day. Families are planning to go out and go out of town. Their kids now are off part of the day or all day.
Right.
I don't know. if they-
Sports activities.
Sports activities.
And you're right, football.
But I think we found some good ideas around, so.
Also for the registration table, remember, I'm sure it needs to have updated, but we actually created brochures last year for SHAC.
Yes.
So we will already have those campus social media things out there.
Can we have those brochures out? Can we come up with the dates ahead of time, just like we do for our calendar? And have the dates ahead of time, so
What
we
if-
can get those brochures.
Yeah, with like,
Typically, we can do that for all years.
Set-
Set up the change, but
like a informational table at, open house, meet the parents,
Yes.
stuff like that.
Football games,
Football games.
Gillette, I mean, especially Gillette, they're at the MOPAC. Get them out there, basketball games, there's baseball games.
Orlena, what form of communication works best with you and other parents that you know as far as like, for a lot of times with the young ones, we have flyers we send home to parents, but then we also do website postings, we also do robocalls. Which
I
form
would
of
say
communication?
texting or
Texting?
emails, because honestly, I would have had to answer my phone when you called me yesterday, because I was at work, but luckily the doctors were not there.
Sorry about that.
So, I usually just check my phone when somebody's texting me. I don't check my emails often, but at work I do check my work emails.
How about like a remind app?
Or my app. I don't get on Facebook or like y'all's school
The
website.
school
I don't
website
get
or
on the
whatever.
school website ever. I don't check my kids' grades. I just know that they're doing well.
Okay, well, those are good ideas. So in the interest of time, we have 3 short presentations today. One on student safety, one on the health curriculum that we have here for the district, and one on child nutrition. So let me turn it over to Max, and you can start with the first presentation on student safety.
PowerPoint is not long, just 3 simple slides, but the information is very important. As part of the TA or Texas mandates in regards to school safety, we were required to have a safety officer, a suit with armed at each of our campuses. Currently, we have 3 scheduled at the high school, 1 rotating at DAP care. We have 2 at Gillette and 1 at each of the elementaries. So each one of our safety officers is a Karen. Now, we are not law enforcement, we are guardian trained. That's one of the avenues that we could use, so we didn't have to go the law enforcement avenue. Now, as part of the safety, TA has put up 2 grants. They're called the SAFE Grant, Cycle 1, and we have the SAFE Grant, Cycle 2. Now, for the SAFE Grant, Cycle 1, we were allotted, I think, $878,000. Is that correct, Peter?
It's about 887,500, I think.
Okay. Now, of that money, there's certain things that minimum that we must meet requirements. And that is part of the Tier 1. One of them is fencing. We must have fencing around all our campuses. and they have to be at 8 feet. Now, we are currently working on that. We have bids already, and we will be adding to the fences that we have already. Also,
Is that
emergency,
usually Gillette?
all of them, yes, ma'am.
Gillette doesn't have fencing.
Yeah, well, we're gonna add to what's there, and then we're going to add fencing that's gonna go around the track, and it's gonna connect all the way to the gym. So that's in the process. We do have bids already, so we're finishing, which I'll discuss later, why we haven't started on the fencing yet, because we're working on something before we get to the fencing. We do have emergency egress gates, okay? Those will be here at the high school, 2 at the high school and 1 at Harvey. And like I said, we are currently getting bids for that. Now, the next thing is exterior doors. We must monitor daily our exterior doors, so our safety officers are doing that, and they must document that. When there is an audit at each of our campuses, and they have to do 1 audit per campus per school year, we have completed, they've audited all our campuses this year, high school is the last. Each door must remain locked, all exterior doors that lead outside. So this grant money can be used for fencing, exterior doors, and then the next thing that we're currently working on is a glass exterior door, not within a secure area, the forced entry resistant film. They should be finished by Friday, installing security film throughout each campus, the front, the back, everything. So every campus will have that security film. Now, let me just explain a little bit about the film. It's not bulletproof. It will go through, but it'll hold the glass in place long enough for someone, it'll give us time, so one of our safety officers or law enforcement will get there to address the threat or put down the threat. So that's where we're at. And like I said, Friday, all our campuses should have security film throughout all exterior doors in zone 1 and 2. Zone 2, basically anything next to our entry doors, our main entry doors. So once we finish that, then we will move on to the fencing. We already have bids. We just need to submit that. Once we do, then we'll start working on all the fences finish up adding to all the elementaries, add on to Gillette, and the fencing around the track and around down San Andreas, and it'll connect to the gymnasiums. The other monies can be used for our silent panic alert technology. We have our Raptor, which everybody in the district has it on their phone. If there's an emergency, all they gotta do is go to their app and press whatever event. If it's a lockdown, a hold, a secure, and everybody at that campus will be alerted of the emergency. Also, we just recently purchased Alertus. It's a device that you put around your neck, hang around on the lanyard, and in case there's an emergency, you just activate it. And it's only for that campus. The other components are exterior door numbering, which we already have that. That is for the purpose if there's an emergency, we can let law enforcement know they entered door 13 on this campus, or they exited door 28. So this is the minimum requirement that we must do. We must address for our district. That's tier 1. This is for Safe Cycle Grant 1. Safe Cycle Grant 2. These are some of the things that we can purchase with our Grant 2, which should be receiving approximately $150,000. We have the purchase and maintenance of security cameras, and equipment beyond the primary entrance. We have providing security for LEA, including police officers, private security, school marshals, and our guardians that we have here, which is our safety officers. Also, we have training for our safety officers. Also, we have metal detectors and two-way radio systems. And then we have access control features on exterior and interior doors. And when they say access control, is if you have one of those cards, you can scan it and it'll open up the door. So that employees come into the building. So basically, this is the things that we are coming down the pipe, which we are addressing or we need to address. Going back to our safety officers, their primary duty, they have two primary duties. One is checking exterior doors on a daily basis, documenting. The second is access to the campus. So they're constantly monitoring the outside cameras, making sure nobody comes onto the campus. That shouldn't be on. If someone does try to attempt, everybody has been trained, whoever it is, they are to report to the front office and be raptored in. They have to go through that process. So those are the two primary jobs of our safety officers. Are there any questions or any concerns?
Well, I just would like to add that if we look where we were 5 years ago with student safety, we have made tremendous strides, and you've been a very big part of that, and Dr. Sandoval as well, with student safety, because it's on everybody's mind, obviously, with some of the negative events that have happened at other school districts, and we really, I think we have done everything we can to make the district as safe as possible for the kids, but at the same
And for our staff.
and for our staff as well too. And luckily now, a lot of this money for these things, I mean, we spent a lot of our own money, but a lot of the money for these new things coming up is coming directly from the grant. So thank all of you guys for everything that you've done
And then metal
before.
detectors, are those for the students?
Those are for everybody, but that's part of the second, that's tier
So
two.
you're moving up like Houston? With
Well-
schools with metal detectors, officers?
Well,
all that?
that's not mandatory. That's,
Possible uses that we could use the
Yes.
grant for, but it hasn't been determined that we are
Yes.
going to institute it here.
correct.
So,
Just depends on the needs of our district and where the money needs to be allocated to. But,
And when will this go in effect if we get approved?
well, right now, Max, don't we have the software that like could identify a weapon just by looking at the cameras?
we're looking into that, getting quotes and everything, but it's called AI weapon detection. If we were to go that route, we would be installed in our cameras, and they would be able to detect weapons, anybody with a weapon, so it would, even before they came into the building, because this is only exterior, they would be able to address the threat.
So we're looking at different options right now and haven't made that a determinant yet. And because that is, like you say, that it's down in tier two
Yeah.
of the grant. But we're considering whatever possibility is gonna work best.
Now, should more monies, they put out more monies in the future, that's definitely one of the things we could look at. We want to make this school, or all our schools and facilities, as safe as possible. So one of the primary things we're looking at is exterior cameras as well.
There's another thing I have noticed too with safety, is in the mornings, my son, I have an older son, he goes to high school here, even after school, there's traffic down here, it's bad, it's really bad. And speed limit can be 25 and they're not gonna stop. One thing I can suggest for safety is crossing the road. What they have in Corpus is a stoplight for another school, so that the kids could cross the street, so that the cars have to stop.
It'd be probably Tech Stop, probably the city,
We'd have to contact the city and text.
Only because, I mean, my son almost got hit,
that is a thought.
Oh, good.
yeah, crossing because the cars wouldn't slow down. And I'm watching.
And that's because the lights are already flashing.
And the only reason why I have my son walk across the street, these speed bumps, my car's too low. Y'all, the KISD is not gonna pay for my axle or my rims or anything. I have a Mercedes. My car's expensive. And my axle already broke one time driving these speed
Oh,
bumps.
wow.
And I paid $1,400 to get it fixed. So,
No, it's understandable.
That's a great idea. We don't have flashing lights, or do we have flashing lights?
Yes,
there's
they're
one on
flashing.
each side,
Yeah.
but
It's like down here where the Goodwill is, and then one about maybe 20 yards or so in this direction.
I think what.
by a quick clap.
I think what helps in the elementary with the flashing lights is there's a constable there. So
But
people
here at the high
automatically-
school, there's
but
no-
here, there's not a constable or a police officer there on a regular basis monitoring.
And they don't even have them at Gillette either. They don't. They're mostly at elementaries. They don't have a cop at Gillette or here at high school. And I only know because I have two kids, one at Gillette, one here.
It's something we could definitely look into.
With the stoplight.
That's a good idea.
With that, there's a good chance that they're going to say no for that. I think we even looked at some of the elementary schools one time. If you interrupt the flow of traffic, especially during the busy time, they may not approve it. But it doesn't hurt to explore it and to present our reasons why we can do that. But, so right now, obviously the yellow flashing lights we have right now, but let's take a look at it and let's talk to them.
I mean, Corpus, where Ray High School's at, I don't know if y'all know where Ray High School's at.
Yes.
That's a pretty busy street all the time.
Yeah.
And they have a light right there for them to cross the street.
So maybe.
Pretty much every high school. campus.
Yeah, there was a kid that got hit there in Ray,
Okay.
crossing the street. Last year, the year before, correct, Ray?
They had lots of that, but still, it does slow it down, because they are really busy in there.
We can look at it.
Yeah, let's do that.
We can definitely look into it now. It's a great idea.
Okay, any other thoughts on the safety presentation before we move to the health curriculum?
Well,
Any
I'm glad
questions?
that it's happening, because I just got a call, as I leave my apologies. That my custodian called and said, there's 2 men in the building. I said, who's in the building?
NGS,
Yes, they're putting on the films on the window.
yes.
So,
So definitely happening.
well, that's good.
They should, like I said, they should be finished by Friday.
Yes, sir.
Ricky, could we get the next PowerPoint?
Yes, of course.
I'm Dr. Holt, I'm the Executive Director of HR, and I'm here presenting today for curriculum instruction. So each year, we're required actually through SHAC to present the health standards and how we're teaching. So this afternoon, what they have sent for us to view is actually a result of a proclamation from last year. So our proclamation is every year, there's a cycle with the state, and every year a new content area, or at least one, sometimes 2 or 3, content area are actually adopted. And then districts then put together a committee of members that the board approves. They go through looking at the state adopted materials that the state releases that says that they cover, the adequate amount of standards for that subject area. Then they look at all the adopted materials that are put out. They take a vote and they take that vote back to the board, and then the materials are adopted. So it takes a year process to do that with the committee and with all the viewing. Parents also during that process, it's put out. and parents are allowed to come and view the materials. Usually it's a room set up, maybe here it might be this room. Last year, the health materials were adopted. What we're going to look at today is an overview of the elementary health adoption. This year, science was adopted, and many, especially when you get to middle school and high school, a lot of your health standards, because not all schools, including ourselves, offer health as a elective. So some of those standards are picked up in science. So in the fall, we will come back because all of those science standards change. We will look at what we have adopted for next year and are putting in place, and we'll look at those standards and specifically pull out what is going to be in health. So if that helps, you'll know. And then next year's math, that doesn't cover health, but just so you know what's coming up as a parent community, next year is the math adoption or proclamation. All right, so what they put together is last year we actually did Quavar Health Scope and Sequence. And Quavar is an online program, and if you look at it, is a resource K through 5. And all the teachers unanimously wanted to adopt an online curriculum. It's easy to use, kids lose a lot of textbooks, they get torn up really easy at elementary schools. This allows them to go outside areas. Some schools don't have gyms, so they're using classrooms or hallways sometimes when weather is bad outside. So having it online is just an easier way for everybody to be able to implement it. In each of the Quavar Health Scope and Sequence for each grade level, there are 8 modules, and each module has 4 lessons that are tied in. Curriculum Instruction has provided a list of those, an example of just one. So looking at this, it's a little bit hard to read up here. So starting at the top left, for module 1, it is responsibility for being healthy, what influences health, behavior, healthy health, and what to do in an emergency. And then you'll see in kindergarten, there are 4 lessons. First grade all the way through 5th. They gradually come up, they cycle a little bit back through those and bring them up in sequential order through the 5th grade. So that's basically how the curriculum was laid out. And then there are 8 different modules. So if you would like to see all 8 of those, we can have curriculum come back with all of those and look at what the students are doing. Right now, they only provide us with a sample. Does anybody have any questions about the elementary health curriculum or how it got to be? And parents can sit in on that committee too, so. We'll come back in the fall with the science and look at the health standards within the science.
Okay, can we get the last PowerPoint for child nutrition?
This laser pointer, these are left and right arrows, that's forward and backwards.
Evening, as the last person and in the interest of saving your valuable time, I won't keep you very long. But in case you are not aware, USDA has made some changes to the child nutrition meal pattern that will affect school breakfast, lunch, and dinner menus going forward. The goal is to bring all publicly funded nutrition programs, CACFP for daycare centers, adult daycare centers, WIC, and school nutrition programs into alignment with the dietary guidelines for Americans. And so as a result, sorry, that's very dark. So I'll read that up for you. USDA's Food Nutrition Services, known as FNS, published a final rule titled Child Nutrition Programs, Meal Patterns Consistent with the 2020 to 2025 Dietary Guidelines for Americans. So again, the goal is to take a look at all publicly funded nutrition programs to make sure that we're paying closer attention to sodium, the fat content in milk, making sure that most of the grains that kids receive in school or through the WIC program or the adult daycare centers are whole grain, and that the grains that they receive aren't heavy in sugar. So we'll start with sugar. The result of the change is that there are going to be limits imposed, but they will be phased in so that it's not too dramatic. Phase 1 puts a limit on sugar in basically paying attention to cereal, yogurt, and flavored milk. To make sure that the cereal that we serve our kids at breakfast, if you pay attention to the little placards that hang up in the grocery store that list the WIC approved cereal, that's basically what they're trying to steer all nutrition programs toward, because they contain no more than 6 grams per sugar for every ounce served. So that's your Cheerios, your Chex. Cocoa Puffs have been reformulated to meet the nutrition standards, and there's another, but it escapes me at the moment. Anyway, those guidelines will be averaged over a 5-day instructional week, or whatever the instructional week happens to be for school nutrition programs. At one point, USDA was considering taking flavored milk away from K through 8 and allowing only unflavored milk, but there was a huge outcry from the nutrition community, particularly school nutrition programs, because we all know that our littles love their strawberry and chocolate milk, and those are already fat-free anyway, and they are already within the new limits for the sugar target. So chocolate milk and strawberry milk will remain available for all grade levels going forward.
But are they decreasing the amount of sugar in them?
They already actually meet the current standards. There was a little bit of scuttlebutt as to whether or not that was true, but when they took a look at the nutritionals on average of the dairy producers that work with K-12, they realized that we were sort of ahead of the curve in that regard. So there won't be a change as it relates to flavored and unflavored milk in schools. Sodium is a big one. This one goes back to the Healthy and Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010. For those of you who don't know, that was the legislation passed that increased funding for school nutrition programs for the first time in something like 50 years. But with all federally funded programs, they tend to offer a carrot and stick approach. So for those of us who take federal funding, like Kingsville ISD, we have to meet these new guidelines. And again, these are averaged over a 5-day period. So in order to make sure that we are meeting those guidelines, what we're trying to do is to implement more scratch cooking, because we can control things like salt and sugar by adapting recipes. So that's the model that we want to adopt in order to make sure that we meet these targets going forward. Processors like Purdue, Tyson have had conversations with folks in USDA to let them know that they can't necessarily meet these targets. So there is a little bit of tension there, but again, KISD's answer going forward is going to need to offer more scratch cooking so that we can continue to meet those deadlines. At least 80% of grains offered have to be whole grain rich. We've been meeting that target for quite a few years now. So basically what that means, if you've got a 5-day instructional week, 1 day for 1 meal service a week, you can offer an enriched grain. Can't count it toward doesn't credit toward the meal pattern, but it does allow you a little bit of flexibility. So for lunch, that might mean serving, a hot Italian sub on a white sub roll. For breakfast, it might mean serving a breakfast taco on an enriched flour tortilla as opposed to a whole grain. So there's a little bit of wiggle room as it relates to whole grain. But again, they're trying to push whole grains because of, their health benefits and aiding in digestion, helping us stay full, feel full for longer periods of time. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, presenters. Max, Dr. Holt, Ms. Butler, really appreciate it. This will be our last SHAC meeting for the year. We will be meeting next year as well too, and we will post those meetings. Any other business that we need before this committee meeting? Okay, thank you. Y'all have a wonderful day and